Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Monday afternoon. It's beautiful here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So if you're able to get outside, go ahead. For anyone else not in Cambridge, Massachusetts, I hope the weather is just as lovely. And also, I can't help but not say, May the 4th be with you on this May 4th. So, Thank you for coming to our LinkedIn Live with a current student, Leave Lunde. And we're excited to talk with Leave, but before that, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping, introduce you to the program and to me. So my name is Tom Little. I use he, him pronouns, and I am marketing coordinator for executive degree programs at MIT Sloan. Today's AMA is designed for prospective students interested in the MIT EMBA program. We'll be diving into what makes the MIT EMBA experience unique by welcoming a student who's approaching graduation. So the MIT EMBA is a 20-month program delivered over 26 weekends. And while most sessions, including module weeks, are held in person. So class weekends for us are Fridays and Saturdays, spaced every 2 to 3 weeks. And while, of course, our students enjoy coming to campus, our students enjoy coming to campus to all of the class weekends. There's also 4 one-week modules strategically spaced throughout the program. And graduates earn the same MBA degree as students in the 2-year and Sloan Fellows MBA programs. Our program is grounded in action learning. So MIT's motto is mens et manus, Latin for mind and hand. As such, you'll apply what you're learning in the classroom directly to your work. Courses are taught by senior MIT Sloan faculty, renowned researchers, industry experts, and passionate educators. Faculty view EMBA students as peers, enriching the classroom dynamic. And our students come from a wide range of locations, industries, and functions. 65% of the class of 2026 come from outside of Massachusetts, 76% are director level or above, and 100% are employed, as this is a requirement for admission. There's so much more to the program, but I think that we have someone here who's much better to speak on that than I am. So I'd love to welcome one of our current students, Leave Lunde, to the conversation. Hi there, Leave.
Hi.
Hi. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so why don't we start out by having you just sort of give a quick introduction to who you are and what you currently do.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Lee Lunde. I'm currently the COO at Double Stallion Games, which is a video game company located in Montreal. When I applied to this program, I was not COO. So as we go through this conversation, you'll see how this program can help sort of advance your career pretty quickly. Yeah, I've always worked in creative industries. And so for me, this was a way of like figuring out the business side and applying it to creatives.
Well, again, thank you for being here. And anyone who is watching along, feel free to put your questions in the comments, whether they're for our program team who will be monitoring the comment section or for Leave. You can ask your questions there and we'll hopefully be able to answer for you. So to start, think about where you were when you were looking into the EMBA program. Why did you decide that you wanted to pursue an EMBA, and what did your career trajectory or life path look like at that point?
So, interestingly, I applied to be in the class of 25s. At that time, Our studio was going through a huge growth period. There was a lot more being asked of me, and I had asked my CEO, what would I need to sort of advance to the next level? What would get me from a director position to the C-suite? We talked about different schools, and actually, for a long time, I had been looking into business schools, and I had thought that I would need to quit my job, go back to school, and then find a job. And there was a lot of interesting programs that offered that, but I didn't want to put my career on hold. So started looking into EMBA programs, um, and there was a few. I looked at some in Canada because I'm from Montreal, and then honestly, uh, MIT was never, ever in my wildest dreams on my like list of schools that I would get into. Um, but someone else had applied that I looked up to and that I thought I was just as good as them. And so being a bit of a competitive person, I was like, well, me too. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna see if I can get in. And I got invited to the MIT Prospective Students Day. I showed up being like, I do not belong here. This is not for me. Like this is an engineering school. Like I come from creative. Like this is a mismatch. And literally the second I walked in the door, I was like, this is where I belong. This is for me. I spent that whole day with other prospective students, meeting the faculty, meeting staff, meeting the program team, and I was just like, oh my god, now like, let alone the whole like, competitive nature and all that. I was like, I need to get into this school. This is for me, and I just made it my mission to like get in. And I was lucky because I was actively seeking a career transition. I was looking to move up to the next level. So I was super, super motivated. Unfortunately, after I applied and I got in, our company went through layoffs, and two things happened. One, my name was on the list to get cut, which meant I wouldn't have been employed, um, which is a requirement to get in. And that like sent panic, like just threw me for weeks trying to figure out how that was going to work. I fought for my position and I ended up keeping it, and I didn't get laid off. But we thought that it was really bad optics for the company, and I had to defer a year. Um, Throughout that year, I had the opportunity to really push for like what I wanted, what was important to me, and what I could bring into the program. So being prepared for what was going to be asked of me in the classroom and from my like fellow students. So at first, deferring was a really, really difficult thing for me because I was so excited. But actually, it set me up for success, and it gave me an opportunity to really think about what was important to me as a leader and where I wanted to go in my career and how this education was going to bring me there.
That's great. And I know during the application process, I've heard in the past people have mentioned how the process has made them think more about who they are, who they want to be, and how MIT can help them achieve those goals. So I encourage everyone on this call to go through those same thoughts.
Yes.
So you mentioned coming to campus a little bit. So what specifically about the MIT EMBA stood out to you?
Part of it was applying the like academic rigor that you do in an engineering program or in a science-backed program to business. Coming out of a creative industry, there's a lot of like wishy-washiness. There's a lot of like, oh yeah, like maybe we'll do it this way, maybe we'll not. You're working with a bunch of artists and creatives. It's not as rigorous, and I really, really liked the way that during the program or during the prospective student day, it was presented that this is the science of business, which meant that there would be hard structures, there would be like thoughtfulness in the research, it would be proven out. This was super far from like how we were doing things in the video game industry, and that was really important to me. Because one of my goals was like, how do I run this studio differently than all the other studios And I thought that MIT would be able to offer that by approaching like the business education differently than other schools did. And so I really wanted to stand out, not only as a leader, but I wanted our studio to stand out in the industry.
That's great. And you've talked about your studio and the decision to defer and how that came into play. So I'm wondering too, who else did you have to get buy-in from to do the program, maybe professionally, maybe personally? And what were those conversations like?
So I feel like I'm an exception. But if you have really, really strong relationships with people, these are easy, hard conversations to have. I had to get buy-in from my boss at the time, and I needed to get buy-in from my family. Um, and I needed to get buy-in from my coworkers and the people that I managed as well. Though it's not officially asked on the application, I thought that it was important that they understood what this journey was going to mean for them. As you know, work would get deferred, my responses would be delayed, I would be gone for 10 days at a time attending school, and I couldn't reply to them on things. I needed my boss to have buy-in because as part of the application process, like they need to know that you're applying and they need to sign off on it. So that conversation for me was actually pretty easy because he wanted me to get more education. He wanted me to sort of advance in my career. Not saying that every conversation after that one was easy, but I had to get buy-in at the time. And then my family. And I sat down with my husband and I was like, I want to do this and it's going to be 2 years. And basically, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to do schoolwork and I need you to look after everything in the house for 2 years. And this is where I say it was easy, is because his response was, well, it's your turn. I got this. Like you go and do school, you go do what you need to do. And this is only 2 years. Um, I don't think people understand how long those 2 years are when you're in it. Um, but sitting down and having those very real conversations is going to get you through the program much easier than if you sort of like minimize what it's going to, what it's going to do to your entire life.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And having these conversations now is very important. Actually, for anyone who's attended an event with us, you might remember we have a slide that talks about your support network. And we do put your employer and your employees there as well, because you're going to be away from work for a significant amount of time. So it's a great opportunity, not only for you to learn and grow, but also think about who on your team is ready for that next stage of development that may be ready to fill in while you're absent, to help with that so you can be present here, but also to develop themselves for the next role. Because we know that no one here today is, maybe not no one, but most people here today are not looking to get this degree to stay in the role with the same impact that they are having currently. So on that sort of impact thread, MIT Sloan's mission emphasizes principled, innovative leadership that improves the world. So how does this mission show up in your work today and the sort of impact that you're having? And has it been influenced since starting the program?
The mission of Sloan is one of the reasons why I applied. I always thought of myself as principled. I always thought of myself as somebody who led with my values. And that put me in tough situations a lot. But I could sleep at night and I felt proud of what I was doing. And so looking at that mission on the wall, like above the stairs, and I look at it every single weekend that I'm there, it means a lot to me. As I mentioned, like, when I applied, we went through layoffs, and part of that for me was like showing up for the staff that were staying, showing up for the staff that we were letting go, and like how does that reflect, how does our choices as leaders reflect on them? um, I'm really happy to say that a whole bunch of people that we did let go in that layoff, I've been able to rehire, and they've happily come back to the studio. And part of it is they've talked about how we run the studio and how we treat people, and that they feel good and at home in the studio that I run. We've also gone through a massive leadership change in the studio, and I had to take on a ton of work and just a ton of situations that I didn't understand before. But for me, it was about protecting the people that were sticking with us. And we've become a much more transparent studio. I've become very open with my team. I talk to them about hard things that we're going through so that they're bought in and they understand, like, if how we make decisions and why we make them. I call out bad leadership in my studio. I call out bad management, and we just like don't stand for it. It's not easy, but I think it's worth it in the end. We have a very strong, very tight knit team, who now come to anyone on the leadership team with anything they want to talk about, and they know that we'll address it. And I think that's part of standing by your values and standing by your principles of what you're there to do. And I've seen a huge change in our studio and our staff in the last 2 years, and I'm really proud of that. Um, yeah, we had to go through a lot to get here, but it was the right way to do it, and so I stand by it.
No, that's great to hear. And I know you're talking about your change and the community you have at work, but how has the EMBA community, sort of your peers in your cohort and other cohorts, maybe alumni or other current students, faculty, staff, how has that network sort of impacted your growth?
It's been wild. You don't think that it's going to hit you the way that it does, but I've made friends and mentors in the program that, like, I mean, we're going to be connected for life. There's no way. Everything that we've been through, all the stuff we worked on together, they've taught me so many things about myself that I just never realized. I literally last night was writing my reflection paper for Go Lab, and it was awesome being able to write about how my team taught me so many things that I didn't think I was going to learn, and that I thought this was going to be an analytical project, but in fact it was sort of like this project about personal change. And so being given that opportunity to sit with other leaders and see how they move through the world and what kind of curiosity they have, it really taught me like how I should be looking at myself and how I should be approaching certain things in the world. My executive coach, the coaching that MIT offers, has like 100% changed who I am as a leader, how I show up, but how I show up for myself as well. She taught me so many things about just how I need to make these changes in my life. There's a phrase that she gave me very, very early on, and I literally wrote it on a post-it note and stuck it to my screen, and it says, always wear a curiosity jacket. And it changed how I interact with people, and it allowed me to ask more questions instead of always like leading with an answer. And the amount that I have learned just from that post-it note isn't worth the tuition alone. It's crazy. And then the program staff and the professors and the conversations that we get into, the stuff we learn from each other, the like after class questions that you go to a professor with, and you sit down and like deep dive into something that you didn't ever think of before. These are like invaluable. Like, it was crazy, and I couldn't have expected all of that before going in. So sort of at every layer of your interactions at the school, there's opportunities to learn and do some really deep learning. When the 27s started, one of the things I told them was like, it's not the classes. Like anyone can do math, anyone can build spreadsheets. Like you'll learn that no problem. It's the work you're going to do on yourself that's going to be the hardest. And none of them believed me. I hope they believe me now. I really do. And I hope anyone applying in the future, like, believe me, it's hard work to work on yourself. But everyone at every layer at school is going to like help you through it and just make you like a much better person.
Thank you. That's a great answer. There's so many things that I do want to touch on there. But I know we have a finite amount of time. I will say you mentioned executive coaching.
Yeah.
Something offered to all EMBA students are there's a 360 assessment that you are offered to take when you matriculate to sort of help your executive coach, which each EMBA student are allotted a certain number of hours to sort of help your growth as a leader there. And having the community too, she mentioned talking to faculty after class, but there are opportunities to engage with faculty as an alum outside of class. I know one of our faculty, Erin Scott, who teaches an entrepreneurship elective in our program, has mentioned that there was one day that she just saw like 4 different EMBAs talking about their startups, getting advice and all of that. So there are pathways when you're here. Everyone wants to learn together, and that's just such a powerful part of the community. But the thing I do want to talk about is you talked about GoLab.
Yeah.
You recently went on your GoLab trip to your host organization with your team.
Yeah.
So I guess, what is that experience like, not only traveling to a multinational or international organization with that might not be in an industry you're familiar with and sort of helping them with the change project? What is that experience like?
For me, it was life changing. Like there's no other word for it. For what I did, I chose the only creative organization on the entire list and just hoped I would get it because it's kind of a roll of the dice at their whole selection process. But I was like, I need to work with this industry, with this organization. And it's an organization called Soundwave, who their entire mission is to basically get artists paid royalties for when their music is played both internationally and within Sierra Leone. And so in Sierra Leone right now, there's zero infrastructure for artists to be paid. And Sierra Leone is also less than 30 years out from a civil war. They're, less than 30 years out from the worst of the Ebola crisis. This is an entire population of people that are just like more resilient than you can ever imagine. And for them, like trying to dial in compensating people for their work while the person next to them doesn't have access to clean drinking water or like 3 meals a day or basic health care was a really, really difficult thing for me to wrap my head around. But after going to Freetown and meeting Sierra Leoneans and hearing their story and living in their world for a week, I understood why something like this was so important to them, because it meant that they weren't being erased as a culture. And that's just as important to them. It's like in their DNA. And that's something I never, ever would have had the opportunity to learn or be a part of or just like internalize if I didn't go and sit with them and take that trip to Sierra Leone and meet with those people. So for me, it was this like life-changing trip of like how I look at what's important and how I look at culture, how I look at creative industries and why they're important. And, I'm not a doctor, I'm not curing cancer, but what we do is important to people. And it really allowed me to like reframe so much of my life and so much of my career, while also helping like move the needle for people that just don't have any of these resources. And so for me, like it was life-changing. And I really hope that the work that we do and the information that we gave our host company, like I hope that it changes lives in Sierra Leone as well. Um, yeah, that's like one of the projects. The other ones are less intense, but I think help you reframe who you are and how you show up, and look at your industry or your work differently through the eyes of another organization and another culture and how they do business. So if you're open to it, I think there's a ton of learning. And if I could fail Go Lab to have to do it again, like I would. It's just such an incredible experience and such a great way to wrap up the program as well, is like take everything we've learned in the last 20 months and then have to apply it to a real organization, and see real change happen.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Sierra Leone
Mhm.
project. I do want to say on our website, there is an article with actually the group that went last year. So the class of 2025,
Yep.
actually working with that company as well. So anyone watching, if you want to look that up, I encourage you to do so to learn more about
Mhm.
the project from them too. Because sometimes we have companies come back if they have another change project because they like working with MIT students.
Yeah.
You also mentioned ending the program with sort of using everything you've learned to help improve something. Something else I want to call out is you're approaching your leading with impact module,
Mhm.
LWI, we call it. And that's when our students work with about 20 area nonprofits on a
Mhm.
change project to sort of help with that. So I've just mentioned two sort of ways that action learning is baked into the curriculum, but
Mhm.
it's really in all courses. You're expected to put something that you learn on Friday, Saturday into your work on Monday. So, Liev, do you have any examples that you can think of that sort of surprised you how applicable it was when you left class the weekend and returned on Monday?
Um, yeah, so I have two. One of them is a negative and one of them is a positive. So the one that's a negative is getting way too excited about what you just learned over the weekend, and you're like, I got this. We're bringing this into the Monday morning meeting with everyone. We're changing things. Let me tell you, nobody in your office gives a crap what you just learned over the weekend. You have to soft sell it. You have to have some tact and read the room. They were not in the classroom getting excited with this like world renowned professor standing in front of you teaching you something that just like blew your mind open. Um, bring the work into, or bring what you've learned in school into your work life, but understand that the people there did not just have the same experience that you did, and you kind of got to soft sell it. I can say that our team was deeply turned off by a whole bunch of stuff that was brought into the workplace after some weekends, and they just felt like we were changing direction all the time. So while I think it's important to bring it back in, be very careful about how you do it and be mindful of the people that you're presenting it to. They've probably worked on a project, for a long time for you. It's their baby, and you're going to rip it out from under them because you learned something on Friday afternoon. Yeah, that it does not fly. But I think if you do the more soft approach, you like bring the learnings in, and bring them along the journey with you, they land and you can create real change. And one of the things that happened for me that was this absolute light bulb moment was during this last IAP session. IAP is the independent learning period in January where you get to pick electives and you do like a whole class in 2 days. It's really intense, but it's really fun. And you get to pick things that either really interest you or are outside of your wheelhouse and you can learn about that you know nothing about. And I actually ended up in a class by accident because the class that I had chosen got canceled. And so I was in a class about delegating leadership. It's taught by Kate Isaacs. And it was all about how to bring other people up with you and trust them to do their work, how to give them autonomy, how to teach them the strategy and let them make decisions that you may or may not have made on your own, but probably help. If they're tied into the strategy of the organization, they tied into how you make decisions, they're going to bring incredible thought forward. And it was that class I actually went in the Monday after, and I was like, I know this normally doesn't land well, but I'm doing a hard change. This is a hard pivot on how we're going to do things, but it's a hard pivot to give you guys more autonomy. It's a hard pivot to give you more agency in your work, to make us as leaders step back, and give you, take the training wheels off, basically. And we made massive changes across how we run the team. And it has landed so incredibly well. People have stepped up in ways that I never thought they would, in very random ways too. Like, I came in after being away at school, I think, and I came in and they had reorganized the entire office and set up 4 testing stations so that we could reproduce how players would be playing our game, and nobody asked me, nobody requested permission anywhere. They just took an afternoon and did it because they're like, we need to do this for our players. This is a key part of how we're going to move forward and make the best game possible. And they're absolutely right. And had they asked me and had they been like, hey, can you do this? Is this something that you could manage for us? It would have taken forever. And they just did it. And now it's baked into how we do our testing every single week. It's also going to save us thousands of dollars on outsourcing this testing. And so they landed this solution in so many different ways by just opening the door and being like, look, if you've got a good idea, run with it. Let's go. And that shift happened from coming out of Kate's class. And I knew by giving them autonomy, it was the time that I could throw a hard pivot at them. It's taking stuff away from them where I know that I have to, deliver it a little more softly.
I'm so happy that you ended up in a course that you ended up really learning something from too.
Yeah, it was amazing. And one of my coaches from Idea Week, who's also a former EMBA, so my coach from Idea Week was in that class with me, which was great because she understood what I was going through. She saw how I had worked that week. She really helped pull me through my thinking and how to frame this for my team. And it just all of these touch points sort of came together for this perfect storm, to apply all of these learnings, and it landed. And I'm super proud of my team. So,
yeah. Well, you mentioned IDEA, which at MIT, we have a lot of acronyms for everything. IDEA stands for Innovation Driven Entrepreneurial Advantage. It is the second module week that you have in the program. And MIT is one of the only EMBA programs that actually has entrepreneurship baked into its curriculum. Other schools obviously have entrepreneurship as electives and centers, but we're one of the few with it baked into the curriculum. So, Leave, I'm curious, as someone who's still at the same company, what has that really impacted in your day-to-day work or in anything else? What has that entrepreneurship lens within the program really helped with overall?
Interestingly enough, I have no interest in being an entrepreneur. I'm one of the few people in the class that's not for me. But I work at a small company. I work in creative industries where things pop up all the time. For me, it meant that I could better understand where entrepreneurs are coming from and how can I best support them through their journey. And so I think as an operations person, having a deep understanding of all the phases that entrepreneurs need to go through gave me a pathway for my career. and gave me a pathway for how I can step in and support and how I can show up in ways that I maybe hadn't thought of before, or just be more empathetic to certain things that are happening and translate that back to the team. So for a lot of people, it was the catalyst for them to start a new company or, run with an idea that they've had for years. And like I said, I had no interest in doing that, but I do have interest in like making other people's lives easier. So I learned so much in like how I can take my job and my role and what I do and my strengths and bring them to the table to help other people who are these like amazing ideas people that want to start new projects.
That's great. And sort of the idea is not just entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship is valuable if you want to create change within your organization, or entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Like Leave said, it's not uncommon for our students to decide to launch companies or enter VC, angel investment, any sort of entrepreneurial activity. There is a significant amount of our students and alumni that come here, they sort of catch the entrepreneurship bug and decide to apply it in whatever way works best for them. Actually, Leave, a common question that we'll get at events like this is if you could go back and do something differently about your experience, whether it's make a different decision or something like that, what would you do differently? And it's okay to say nothing.
You mean at school or in my career?
At school, but if it's tied to the career, that works as well.
If I could change anything about how I moved through the journey at school, is I would sit in the moments at school with my classmates, or I would, take these opportunities that you guys put in front of us for like networking or socializing, or because there's a million events organized for us to go to, and really like sit in those moments and be present with the people and with the like opportunity being given to us. I think often, because everyone in the program has a full-time job, is raising a family, is like dealing with life, is, maybe caring for a sick parent at home. Like, we don't know, but everyone's going through life. And sometimes you go into those events and you're like, oh, just give me some dinner and then I'm going to go back to the hotel. I'm exhausted. And now that I'm down to my last 3 weeks at school, I'm like, I wish I spent more time in those moments with these people, learning about them, learning more about myself, and taking advantage of like those opportunities that were put in front of me. Because I think it's painfully obvious that you do your readings and your homework and you pay attention in class. Like, that's sort of a given when you go back to school. And it's not as obvious to, take those moments and really sit with them and take advantage of them, because you can't go back and review them. Like your readings, you can go back and review. You can watch the video from class, but like I can't go back to those events and like ask for a conversation. It's just gone. So I would definitely approach that differently and like find the energy for 2 or 3 hours and like really lean into it.
Yeah, I will say, I know your cohort's no different, but a lot of our cohorts have active WhatsApp groups where they stay connected. But yeah, those one-on-one sort of conversations you might be able to get, or small group conversations you might be able to get at our networking events, are really a strength of our in-person programming, I think. Because you'd be surprised how you can get a group of people to campus once every 2 to 3 weeks, just how well the community sort of forms and fits together. Leave, I don't know if you have anything on that you'd want to sort of expand on.
I mean, it's shocking. Like really shocking. I mean, I fly an hour to get to campus, so I don't get to say anything about my commute. there's people that fly in from Shanghai and Beijing, and they fly in every 2 weeks, and that's a 14-hour flight each way, um, and they show up and they're in it and they're participating and I was just like, how? Like, I don't understand how, but they're supported by everybody else in the class. How can I help you? Do you need coffee when you get off the plane? Like, people are literally rolling in from the airport to the classroom. Um, and there's just this understanding of like, we're in this together. And that builds these incredible bonds. So you will get very, very close with your cohort. Some people more than others, but I think as a team and as a unit, there will be a lot of bonding that happens. And not to use this word this way, and I'm sorry, this is the wrong word, but it's the general feeling. It's like trauma bonding. You're going through something very, very difficult together, and people from the outside, just who haven't gone through it, don't understand how intense it is. And so you bond with the people that are going through it with you, because they can empathize and they know exactly how it feels to be up until 3 a.m. writing whatever project or trying to figure out that accounting problem. And they know exactly how it feels. And so you just lean on them hard. And it's amazing how the program is built to give us spaces to be with each other and lean on each other in a formal sense, but also in an informal sense. And so much of it just feels really organic, even though if you're not a part of it, it makes no sense from the outside. But when you're in it, like, it just happens.
All right, Leave, we are coming up on time, but I like to end any sort of panel discussion or one-on-one discussion with our students and alumni with this final question. And that is, for anyone who's watching right now or watching the recording later, what's one piece of advice you have for them as they navigate their interest in the MIT Executive MBA?
Do the thing. Just freaking do it. Apply. Push aside your fears about it. Push aside, like, am I good enough? Am I, supposed to be here? Just shove all of your doubt and all of your fears away. Um, it's going to be one of the most incredible experiences of your life. It's going to be hard, um, but you don't get diamonds without pressure. Like, I think that this program spits out diamonds. You put in the work and it's worth it. For anyone out there who already works in business, the ROI is immeasurable. Like, it's just through the roof. Lean into it hard, and go for it. I literally put this in my application letter. I wrote that I didn't think that I belonged at a school like MIT. I didn't think that my background played into, like, me being a part of one of these cohorts or being accepted at an engineering business school. Like, I was just like, I shouldn't be here. And in the end, what I learned from everybody, from the program staff who greeted me on day one and at Prospective Students Day, to all of my professors, to all of my classmates, is that background and all of my doubts about my weird career were actually why I should be there. And I think if you're questioning whether you should be there, whether you're a part of this, whether you're good enough, stop questioning and just, like, lean in, because that's what makes this program so awesome. Is I met so many other people who were in similar situations as me, where they just doubted why they should be there, and then they brought these, like, incredible voices to the room and perspectives I never would have thought about, and that sort of creates the beauty in your cohort and the beauty in the learning that happens. So that's my advice. Just freaking lean in and go for it. And while you're there, keep leaning in. It's absolutely worth it. Every day, every class, like, yeah, it was absolutely one of the best things I've done in my life.
Leave, thank you. That was a great answer. And I know that several of our students and alumni felt the exact same way. Imposter syndrome is real amongst it. And I sometimes say that if you're feeling like an imposter, then you're where you belong, because everyone has that sort of humbleness to them when they're here.
Yeah.
So,
and you can't help it because everyone around you is incredible, but know that everybody around you is feeling like an imposter. And that feeling goes away real fast. So just push through it, show up. The feeling goes away super, super fast.
all right. Lieve, thank you so much for your time today. It was a great conversation.
It was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. So just a little bit of housekeeping to end before we go. So we explored what it means to be a strong candidate for the MIT EMBA and what the program is like. We hope this conversation helped you to reflect on your own leadership journey. So what is your life's next inflection point? We hope to see you in our next cohort. Our application deadlines are listed. So this Thursday, May 7th, is our final deadline. However, our late round will go through June 2026. So if you're not ready for this Thursday, then there's still time for you to submit your application. And if you want to get more insight from events like this is the last event we do have scheduled for the spring, but you can find recordings for our events on our website as well. Thank you all so much for coming today, and we hope to see your application soon.